Welcome to Studio Biz and all that jazz. Today we have another special interview with one of my beautiful clients. Her name is Tamara Scamporlino. She's been on the show before, but we're having a very different conversation now as her business and life has really evolved over the last couple of years. Now, Tamara came into my world when she joined Talent Manager Bootcamp, which is the course designed to take you from studio owner to talent manager. We're going to talk about her talent management journey inside of her studio. But more than that, we're also going to explore how it all came about, the ebbs and flows of studio business, and also what it's like running a studio for 20 years and how she maintains her enthusiasm and keeps it fresh. Because a 20-year business can become stale for anyone, regardless if you love what you do and if you're pursuing your passion and all that jazz, and Tamara actually has some things in place that have ensured that she's continually growing within her business, she's evolving, and she's also keeping it interesting, because that's important. You still got to kind of love what you do, right? Even after 20 years. And I know many of my listeners, have all different experiences when it comes to studio ownership, whether it be they've just opened up the doors to, I've got clients that have had their studio for 40 years. So, I think it's a really interesting conversation when we talk about how to keep it fresh. Yeah. Now, Tamara owns a dance studio in West Ryde, Sydney, Australia. It's called Vibes Performing Arts, which is, like I said, coming into its 20th year this year. She also had an international dance career prior to opening up her studio. Her international credits include dance contracts on Costa Cruise Lines, on Eagle's Wings, the musical in the UK, various pantomimes, various casinos and cabaret venues throughout Europe, and Illusions in Sweden. So she's had quite the stint there before settling in to studio owner life. Now, Tamara was also an illusion assistant in 2 different magic shows in Italy, The Magic of Connie Boyd and Francesco Tessé. So this is very exciting, and we talk about that. And I think that this actually links to her talent management journey. She had that performance career herself. She also came from a studio that had an in-house talent agency. So when that opportunity came about through Talent Manager Bootcamp, she really jumped on it, and she's just gone guns blazing with it. It's been beautiful to watch. And I think, just having that background of performance was something that inspired her to do that within her own business successfully. Now, in Australia, Tamara was also a dancer in various shows. She's performed at Movie World, Australia's Wonderland, Wet n Wild, danced in the movie Mal's Last Dancer, and she's hosted and choreographed live shows for Nickelodeon and Disney, and was a part of Nickelodeon Slime Fest for many years. So she brought that international career into Australia and then became a studio owner, which happens to so many of us. I mean, I had a performance career for a long time and then went into studio ownership and also motherhood, and there's no regrets of that. That's just the evolution of life, and having that career path ahead of you and those changes within your industry. It's quite a beautiful thing. And like I said, she's keeping it fresh. She did the course. A couple of years later, she's still a talent manager. She's representing her students professionally on stage, on screen, and so much more. We're going to talk about that and get to know Tamara, because she shares some personal stories as well, including the challenges of when she first started her relationship with her beautiful husband, who's working within her business to this date. So we want to talk about how that all got started as well, which is super fun. All right, let's jump into the show with Tamara Scamporlino. Now, before we jump into today's episode with Tamara, I just want to let you know that the revamped Talent Manager Bootcamp course doors are now open and the course is now on demand. I'm excited to share it with you. If you've ever dreamed of creating an in-house talent agency and want to represent your students professionally on stage and on screen while increasing your revenue, increasing your student retention and your popularity in your local area, becoming that go-to studio, then this course is for you. And the best part is if you join Talent Manager Bootcamp before February 8th, 2025, you receive special offer bonuses, including 3 one-hour weekly group momentum calls with me via Zoom, Q&A live sessions, and so much more. And we have a second optional upgrade bonus where you can come to Studio Biz Summit for an amazing price. This is an in-person event happening on the 29th of April in Sydney. Now that's an optional upgrade, but having said all of that, the best thing to do is just to go and check it out. Head to josephinelancuba.com/talent. Link is in the show notes. Check it out now and on with the show. Hello and welcome to Studio Biz and All That Jazz. I'm your performing arts business coach and host, Josephine Lancuba. This show is designed to bring you inspiration, information, and the instruments you need to create and grow the studio biz of your dreams. I will bring you a mix of solo episodes as well as interviews where I tap into the minds of industry experts. My career started as a performer over 2 decades ago. I later became a speaker, theatrical producer, and talent manager, as well as having a successful teaching career in singing, drama, and dance. 10 years into my professional journey, I became a mama of 2, and with a baby on my hip, opened up my very own performing arts studio. From hardship and humble beginnings to 4 studio locations and a multi-6-figure performing arts biz, I know how to attract students and keep them coming back for more. And in the show, I will share with you my experiences to help you thrive and fast-track your path to success. I know you have a spark inside of you with dreams and goals for the future. As your coach and mentor, I'm here to help you step into your limelight and be a cheerleader in your ear each and every week. So get ready to be entertained and inspired as we talk studio biz and all that jazz. I am here today with the wonderful Tamara Scamporlino from Vibes Performing Arts in New South Wales. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, Jo. Thanks for having me again.
Yay! I love having my beautiful clients on the show, and I invited you back because there's been so many leaps and bounds since our last conversation, and I thought it was definitely worth having you back on the show. Everyone listening, you heard the intro. Tamara's been with me for quite some time, I think a couple of years now.
Definitely, yeah.
And you started with Talent Manager Bootcamp and then joined me inside of our agency, Studio Talent Collective, and also our membership, Studio Biz Success. We've got a lot to unpack there, but first, because I know it's been quite some time, let's do a little recap on who you are for everyone listening that does not know you, and just studio, when it all started, all the fun stuff. Take us take a little step back in time with us.
Okay, so I am an ex-dancer. I never get to say that anymore, so I'm going to say that. An ex-professional dancer. So I grew up dancing. That was my life. No other sports, nothing, just dance. After school, I went into a year of full-time ballet. Didn't finish out the course because then I started working professionally as a dancer, not in ballet, which was not a good thing in my ballet teacher's eyes, but off I went. And I did my first contract in Taiwan for Diane Heaton. And that kind of just, one thing leads to another. And I ended up traveling around the world for about 10 years as a dancer. So I did cruise ships for about 5 years. I did a stint in London, a little stint in the US, and a whole bunch of stuff in between. I've done the casino, it's now the Star, used to be Jupiter's on the Gold Coast. I did 2.
I remember the old Jupiter's.
Yes, where we did a whole year run of a show. Like, how good was that to get like a year-long contract as a dancer? So the good old days. I did that twice. And then I kind of missed home a lot, and made my way back here and was just doing what I did every time I came home, a bit of teaching for friends. And I realized I wanted to stay put. I had traveled long enough and decided to, do my own thing with the dance studio. And I just started. Yeah.
You met your partner while you were traveling, is that correct? Tell us about that story. I love a good romantic meetup story. Tell us about that.
It is a romantic story. We met on a ship called Costa Romantica, and he was the sound tech on board and I was dancing, obviously. We were friends at first. All the dancers were really friendly with all the technicians. And we actually finished our contracts and off we went, our separate ways. And we both ended up back on the same ship. And we kind of clicked and I let him chase me for a little while. And anyway, we spent a few years on board together, which was really nice. It was our life, we ended up with a cabin together and he was then head technician. I was head dancer. Came with some hardships though. We were long distance for a lot of the time.
He's from Italy as well.
Yeah, he's Italian. And because we worked for an Italian cruise ship company, Costa, he worked within the fleet. So he would be moved ship to ship. I worked just for the one ship for a production company. So he would get moved around and we would have to do the long distance thing. And this was pre-smartphones. So we're talking like the year 2000. We're going way back. So we could call each other. We had mobiles, basic texting. That was it. So we'd have to wait till we were in port to run off and find a payphone or find an internet cafe and send emails. We would send little notes and gifts through the traveling artists that would go ship to ship. We'd find out who was going where. So yeah, it's kind of romantic if you think about that. Also,
how long did that go on for, the long distance thing?
7 years before he came out here and proposed to me.
Wow.
So yeah, 7 years long distance. I honestly don't know how we did it, especially without FaceTime and things like that. We could Skype, but when he was still on board and I was home, it was too hard. Like he'd have to, the timing and finding internet cafes and
It is a true commitment.
Yeah,
that's a beautiful story. I didn't realize that you guys had done that I kind of thought you guys met and then you got off the boat, went to Australia and life was good.
No. Well, that ended up how it was, but yeah, it was a long roundabout to get there.
Now he's in production. Does that mean he does all your sound and lighting for your studio?
He does.
Oh, you're so lucky.
I'm so lucky. I know. So yeah, anything technical, music, sound. We're lucky that at our venue for our end of year concert, it's a leagues club, like it's the local club, and they do have their own technician, but he sits up there next to Ken and he usually does run the show and Ken's pretty good with that. So yeah, it's really handy. It takes a lot off me because I can't, not good at that kind of stuff, that is totally not my thing at all. So
and I think that's a pretty normal space to be in when you are a studio owner. Like you can't be the butcher, the baker and the candlestick maker, even though we do put on all the hats, right? I think, to be an engineer in sound and lighting, it's its own skill. And if it doesn't go well, when sound is bad, it's a pet peeve of mine. I cannot stand it. It can really ruin a show.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's so important, so important. So when did you start Vibes Performing Arts? How long ago are we talking now?
This is our 20th year. Now, I thought this was our 19th year, so I've lost a year along the way. But when you get to this point, it is what it is. But no, my students tell me it's 20 years. And if we look back, yes, it is. This will be our 20th concert at the end of the year.
Are you going to do something special for the anniversary?
Yeah, I'm kind of working on that at the moment. Not sure what that will look like because we did a special 10-year concert. We kind of did like a look back on not my life per se, like it wasn't all about me, but how I came to where I am now. So kind of my journey. So we did like something to reflect my life on the ship and like different shows I had done and different places I'd been. And I also got to be in the movie Mal's Last Dancer. That was kind of the last professional thing I did. And that was just after I got married, actually. So funny, we never got a honeymoon because I got married on the Saturday and I went into rehearsals for the movie on the Monday. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, and then that was a good few months of work. But so we did, a ballet number from Mal's Last Dancer, and we had a clip of it up on the projector screen. So we kind of like reflected on my career as a dancer back for the 10-year one. So
And it so is all about you because but it should be. I
yeah,
mean, why not? It's committed. That's a committed effort, 20
yeah,
years. And, I've got clients that have been doing this for, 1 year, 30 years, 40 years, like 20 years is a really big stint. So well done to you. You made it this far. Tell
yeah.
us about that. So, what is it like then after 20 years of business? Because I know um, you're such a good, studious human. You love to learn. I can tell you love to learn, right?
Yeah.
You're a part of a lot of networking groups, communities. You like to explore different things within the industry, and I think that's a real powerful asset to have that education piece. Is that what keeps it fresh for you? Like, how do you keep going after 20 years of business?
So I see my studio life as two parts. So one is pre-COVID, one is post-COVID. Well, COVID and post-COVID. But the reason for that is I feel like I reinvented everything during COVID. So from year one up until 2020, I was just fluffing my way through. Like I didn't have any business training. I didn't have any tech tools that I could use. I had a very basic software system. And I was just, going with the flow year after year. And then COVID hit and then everything changed. And then that's where I found people like you to connect with. And I basically like rebooted my business and almost started again because then I was learning all these new things. And if you think about starting 20 years ago, I didn't have a laptop. Like I didn't run it from a computer. I had a cash tin. Like nothing was digitalized, nothing. So, and obviously over the years, I got a computer and things like that. But then COVID hit. And then I realized like I was learning so much from people like you, from coaches and mentors. I didn't even know that was a thing until, suddenly people are reaching out on Facebook trying to help everyone through the pandemic. And and I started learning all these new things that I could implement and then hearing from other studio owners. And then studio owners became friends. And I was like, well, that's new. That's
Yes,
unheard of.
definitely.
Every studio owner is your competition. You don't talk to them. And then all of a sudden we were all talking. I was like, oh, this is a whole new world. This is how it should be. And so this is why I want to learn as much as I can. And I'm in groups like yours because every Zoom with you, I might pick up one little thing, but that's one new thing that I can add to my toolkit or to my, repertoire, whatever. So, yes, I feel like from 2020, as we started just reinventing the business a bit, we've grown again. So it's sort of a two-phase thing. So this is part 2 of my business journey.
It's the second lease of business life, essentially.
Yeah. And I wish I had that at the beginning. I wish I had people to help me from the start because you only know what you know, right? Like I didn't know all these technical things existed. I didn't know I could use so many software tools to run a dance studio. I would think everything was for a real business and we weren't really a real business. And now, yes, we are a business. And I've only learned that since COVID. And I've learned to turn the whole thing into a business rather than a dance school, let's say. It's a business.
So now that you've gone through this whole educational spurt, this is all about your personal development as well, I'm assuming. What has been the result of that? Like you've gone through this whole phase of connecting, community, education, etc. But how has it helped you in the sense of the results of your business? Was there any growth after sort of connecting in those sorts of communities?
Yeah. So there's been growth for sure. It's more kind of an ease of running things. So knowing that I have systems in place, processes in place, things that it means I can step out and the business is going to keep running. It's not all reliant on me. So yeah, up until that point, I was everything. I had every hat on top of my head and I had staff, but I still wore every single hat. So now there's other people wearing some hats for me, which you know, you literally cannot do it all. I'm no good at anything technical. I'm no good at social media. I don't like it. I don't like doing it, but it's important, so it's got to be done. So I have someone doing social media, I have someone doing the technical side, I have someone organizing my stuff for me now. And that's not to say that I'm spending a ton of money on that. Like, these are my staff members, and I have some juniors who are incredible at that stuff, right?
Mm.
So I make use of them, and they're happy because they've got this great job. They don't have to go across the road and work at Macca's. They've got this amazing job, and they are learning so many new skills. And I'm able to help them upskill as well and put them through trainings for different things. And yeah, so they're helping me, and I'm giving back to them, not just by paying them, obviously, but by giving them skills they can use when they move on. So, and
Yeah.
I think that's really important because I didn't have any of that. I was, I did teach dance at my studio when I was 15, 16, whatever. So I learned how to be a teacher, full stop. That was it. So, and I didn't learn any of the business stuff until 2020. So that was a good way into my business journey.
And this is the thing. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right? And so especially when you start a studio, most people come into it as teachers or dancers or artists, performers, etc. But that doesn't mean that they have any knowledge of business. And it takes time. It took me time, um, you know, and then I went and did some further education and whatnot. But I do think that the craft itself isn't enough. Like the passion for your craft just isn't enough. And unless you're in there actually running the business component, it just doesn't work. Like I've had clients come to me after running studios for decades, that aren't paying themselves a wage, and they never really have. And it's kind of like, okay, well, we need to fix that. Like I just think that it can be such a hard slog, especially when passion is involved, and people can really take advantage of that too because they know we love it. So
Yes.
it's about having boundaries and all those things as well.
Mm,
Now
mm.
you've expanded so much, you've grown your studio, you've even got other locations, yes? So you've kind of gone into that. But then you came to me a couple of years ago when I started talking about talent management and Talent Manager Bootcamp, which is the course, obviously, that I've been talking about of recent, which takes people from studio owner to talent manager. Tell me why, when you saw create your own in-house talent agency, when you saw that message, what drew you to that? What was it that you went, yeah, you know what? I think this is something we might give a go.
I That connected with me because that's how I grew up. My dance studio had an in-house talent agency, and I got a bit of work through that, and that was cool. And we would get our headshots done and everything. And when I saw that, because I never thought about that after, I never thought that's something I could do because I wouldn't know how to do that. So I would never think of it. And then when I saw that, I was like, gosh, that's a good idea. Like, we already have a dance studio, we already have kids. Why not run an in-house talent agency? And I like things that are, because we're busy, right? Like, everybody is busy, but we're really busy. So I like things that are kind of done for me. So I like the fact that there was a training course to do, so the Talent Manager Bootcamp. And then I like the fact that at the end of that, you have a choice to go and start your own agency or follow you in Studio Talent Collective and have you kind of lead the way so that, we don't have to deal with the tricky stuff, like the
Mm-mm-mm.
legals
Yeah,
and
and
the
it depends on yourself, right? And where
yeah.
you're at. Like, and that's the thing. I think having pathway options is really important, because when I first started Talent Manager Bootcamp, there wasn't that pathway to the collective agency, Studio Talent Collective. It was just the course. But what I started to find was that some studio owners would go and create their own in-house talent agencies, and others were well intended, but then they'd go, oh, I just, don't know if I have the time for that or whatever. So I had to create a solution for the others because I
Yeah,
wanted it to be accessible. So, yeah,
exactly.
I love that you've kind of identified that, because that was really a big part of that accessibility piece. And I don't really mind which way people go. It's more just about whatever works for you. But you
Yeah.
came and you joined us in the agency. Now, having said all that, you went through the course. Tell me about that first moment where you said out loud, I'm a talent manager.
Um, I think it was. it was when I was able to announce it to everyone and say, hey guys, did you know we have an in-house talent agency? That was really cool because then people were like, do you? Oh, that sounds cool. And that's when I was like, actually, that's really cool. I did that with the help of
Yeah.
you, Josephine. But
You
yeah,
might have had a little, did you feel a little bit nervous, a little bit? Was there any
yes.
imposter syndrome seeping? Like, how did that feel? Like, was it
Um,
scary or were you just like, I've got this?
I don't think it was scary. I think because I was following your steps. I'm a person needs to have steps to follow. Otherwise, I'm easily overwhelmed and it'll push it away and I just won't get to it, even though I want to. So I just sort of followed your steps in the training. And so I didn't really feel nervous because I knew that although I was starting this agency within my studio, I was still under your umbrella. And so I would have you. So if I've got any questions that I can't answer, I can ask you. If there's anything, that's a bit, I'm unsure, I could just ask you. Like there was nothing, it wasn't all on me. So because I'm not very experienced, or I wasn't very experienced in that world, I didn't have to worry about, what if I do something wrong? Because I had you to back me up to,
And it all
help.
does come down to experience. It's like anything, when you start something new, you figure it out, and then after a while, you get good at it.
Yeah.
Um, you know, it's interesting because one of the opportunities that you've booked so many auditions and callbacks and things like that in your studio, and you've sold out photo shoots recently, which was so phenomenal. But there was a booking that you guys received, which was for your son.
Yes.
Tell us about that, being a mummager. What is that like?
So Chris Jenner.
Yeah.
I that was double. This is a double whammy, good whammy, because it was our first booking for the agency and it was my son. So that was super cool. And that was only because, like, as the mum and the manager, I made sure he put that self-tape through. I made sure everything was done properly, because it can get I mean, my son's been in an agency since he was a baby. The first thing he did was and get his calendar when he was like 4 weeks old. And so he joined up to this agency. And as a mum, I would forget to do things or I wouldn't submit him for things because it looked too hard or whatever. So I made sure, now I've got to do it. I'm running this whole thing. So I put in the effort because the parents do have to, we've got to put in the effort, or the parents have to put in the effort 100% because you're looking after your kids and you want them to get these amazing jobs. So I did that. And yeah, he landed the ad. And yeah, it was our first big one. And yeah, it was his first big job as well. So it was double exciting.
Yeah, what was it? It was Amazon.
Prime Video.
Yeah, Prime Video.
Yeah,
That's right.
the cricket.
Watermelon Kid.
Yeah.
With
It's
the big
all
watermelon on his head. I
stop
love it.
because that watermelon is still in our freezer out the back. He
Are
won't
you
let me throw
joking?
it. I'm not joking. They let him keep. It was a real watermelon, and they scooped out the insides and let it dry for a couple of days. And they said to him at the end, "Oh, you can take that home." And I was like, "Really? Did you have to say that?" So he wore it to the car, and I'm in the car. I was like, "You got to take that off your head." And it went into the freezer, and it's still there.
Oh my goodness. That's like the memorabilia piece of his first professional gig. I love it so much. With you guys, which is so exciting.
Yeah.
Now, tell us about the evolution now of the studio. So, what sort of changes has this all made? You've had this education piece, you've expanded, you've actually even started running some programs into preschools as well. Is that correct? So
Yeah.
you've had a lot of expansion because
Yep.
people think of expansion in the sense of multiple locations,
Mm.
but for you as well, it's been more about also reaching out to those communities, like going and teaching in your local preschools, having the talent agency. So you've got a lot of moving parts, right?
Yes.
What's that like, having these multiple revenue streams and services within your business and all these moving parts? And how do you manage that?
Firstly, I think it's really important to have multiple revenue streams. And I would always hear that. And I always think, how am I going to have different revenue streams? That doesn't make any sense. And then I thought, oh, okay, selling uniforms, that's one. And then I realized what it actually meant. And when I started thinking about bringing in outside programs, it was more because I did not have the time to think for myself, really. Um, or to train up my staff. So, I took on Ready Set Dance, which is amazing because they train up your staff for you. I don't teach any of the preschool classes. My girls teach them all. But, I'm confident that they're teaching the right things and in the right way because they're getting that really good training. And so I bring in programs like that. And so that helps me because it saves me time. I can just sign the girls up. Okay, you're off to training. Good, let's go. And then I've been teaching in a high school for probably 13, 14 years, the same high school. And it keeps me pretty busy. I do 5 or 6 weeks a term. But again, like it's not that far from my studio. So it's another connection back to the studio and it's an extra revenue stream. So I do all the teaching myself. I could have someone else do it, but I still enjoy doing it. I'm still able to do it. We'll see how I go this term with Zumba. The older I get, the harder Zumba becomes to teach, but we'll see. But the school's really great. They like having me there because I'm a constant for them. They used to have an outside company that would send different instructors. And anyway, now they have me and I make myself available. So they pay really well. It's good for me. It's a win-win, keeps me very busy. And then I brought another program for teaching in childcare centres. So, and I just started that at the end of last year. So again, that's within my local area in my trade zone. And I have access to, however many childcare centres are in my area, which happens to be 91. I will never get to the point of teaching in 91. But
good if you had teachers going out, but that's like the big one.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of teachers lined up. I'm doing 3 at the moment by myself, which is where I was at this morning. So yeah, and again, that's another revenue stream. And that's also another way into our studio because I have direct contact with the parents of those kids that I'm teaching there. So, at the end of the year, I sent flyers, I gave them a little goodie bag, flyers for my Ready Set Dance program. And I've got kids now enrolled in the studio that I taught at daycare last year. So, and some of them are doing both. Some of them are doing daycare and the studio. So you got to find things that, first of all, bring in more money, and secondly, connect back to your studio. So you're just always pointing everyone to your main base of income, I guess, which is really your studio business.
Yeah, and I think having all these things, like people, like you said, when you first started revenue streams, people talk about uniforms and blah, 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 but it's about diversifying the income. Yes, uniforms is a revenue stream. We know that, but you can only sell as many uniforms as the students you have. Yeah. So if you diversify your income, like talent management, like preschool education, etc., then it means that when something like COVID happens, for example, you're not as vulnerable to the market. Like for me, I had my studio at the time when COVID hit, and I had my in-house talent agency. And the talent agency continued to generate revenue whilst the studio was plummeting, right? Yes, we continued to stay active, but I only retained 40% of my clients online virtually.
Yeah.
So, but the agency continued because there was, rollover fees and commissions that were still pending and blah, blah, blah. And we had, if you think about advertising during COVID, advertising and commercial campaigns didn't stop.
Yep.
They were still doing advertising, right? It didn't stop. So if you think of it like that, and that meant that I was less vulnerable. And it's the same for you. Like if there are these things like, let's say the studio has a bit of a lull, but you've got these preschool programs because childcare is an essential item, right?
Yes.
Studios were not considered essential services, but daycare centers are. So they're going to operate no matter what. So it's like wherever it is, that diversification in income is so important. And it keeps it interesting,
Yes. Yeah.
What would you say to a studio owner who's thinking about talent management and joining Talent Manager Bootcamp?
Firstly, I would say do it because it's so easy. It's like doing the course is so helpful. You learn so much. And then, whichever path you take, whether doing your own agency or going under the umbrella of Studio Talent Collective, first of all, you've just learned a whole bunch of new stuff that you can implement. And secondly, like it's super easy. Once you're all set up and once you got people on your books, that's probably the hardest thing, just like putting the word out and waiting for people to come in. Once that's happening and you've got your talent roster set up, you've got a good chunk of people on there, it's great because casting briefs come in every single day and multiple briefs. And you scroll through anyone in that age group that I can submit. Yes, submit. Click a few buttons, choose your person, done. And then you just wait to hear and you go from there. So first of all, it's like it doesn't take a lot of time out of your day. It's really simple. You can do it on the go. So simple. Yeah. And secondly, the great thing is that you're giving these opportunities to your kids, not even within your studio. You might get outsiders. I have a few outsiders, but suddenly you're giving something new to your kids. And when you start getting jobs for those kids and you can say that, then the parents are like, oh my gosh, really? They're doing ads like this. So at the concert last year, I did a whole thing about the agency and we had it up on the projectors, and I was able to run clips of my son's commercial and also one of my other kids, Maya. She did a Big W Christmas campaign and it was running on air at the time of my concert. So I was like, this is Maya. She's on TV right now. And her story was that she had signed up to the agency and about a week later, she got requested to do a self-tape. And suddenly this kid is apparently a superstar on camera because she lands a commercial. Yeah. And when I looked at her self-tapes, I was like, well, who would have known? Like, she's pretty outgoing at the studio, but I didn't realize that she could do that and land, a commercial within a week or two of being in the agency. So yeah, it's kind of like, it's like having a trophy, and Maya did this commercial and Max did this commercial.
And absolutely. And that's why I say it adds to your industry credibility, and it also really does create a great attraction tool and retention tool within your studio. Yeah. Talent management is one of those things. And once you know how to do it, this is the thing, people think it's like this really difficult thing and it's been put on this pedestal for too long in our industry. It's actually not rocket science. Yeah. It's not rocket science. It's just about when you know how, you can do it. And that's what Talent Manager Bootcamp is all about. It's about learning how to do it. So I love that you've said that you've been able to easily implement it, and it doesn't have to take up much of your day. At all, actually. But the thing as well is that I like to think of it, it's like adding anything else into your toolkit when it comes to enhancing your studio experience. It's like if you're adding a tap program, it's like that. Add a tap program, add an agency. Like, to me, it's all the same. It's not something that needs to be like people need to be scared of. But of course, because of the nature of the reputation of, casting directors and the professional industry and blah, blah, people suffer extreme imposter syndrome when it comes to this space. And did you have any experience in managing talent prior to Talent Manager Bootcamp?
Look, not really. I have over the years, just through connections, been asked to provide dancers for this and that, which I did. And if I had an agency back then, I could have done it much better for myself. But I've sent people off in contracts and things like that, but not as a manager, not as an agent, just as I know you and you'd be really good at this job. And kind of that.
And I think that's the nature of the studio, isn't it? That a lot of people just dabble in talent management, but they're not actually doing it in a way that is actually a functional, systematic process within their business where they can generate revenue and have a process in place and have their profile set up so they can easily submit people for the work. But that's what it's all about. And I love that you've gone ahead and you've done it. And like I said, you recently had a sold out photo shoot and workshop experience as well that you probably normally wouldn't have run if it hadn't have been for the agency. So we love that those revenue opportunities are coming through.
Yeah.
Tell me about success. When it comes to success, what does it really look like for you? What does it mean?
I guess there's different ways that I look at it. Obviously, the first thing you think of is student numbers or revenue, like both really. But that's just kind of the big view. And if I bring it right in, success is almost peace of mind, ease, like just feeling like everything's running as it should. That is what success is. And sometimes you feel like you're there and you're like, oh, this is it, I've reached it. And then something will happen, you're like, damn, but that's business. There's ups and there's downs, and although we've had good growth and things over the last couple of years, we've also had some pretty, low lows, which is normal. And I think you just have to, if you can bring yourself back from those lows and sort of, you're always working towards something. There's no end. There's no finish line for what your success should be. There's always something new to work towards. But for me, success is when I know things can run smoothly, when I feel at ease, and when I'm not overwhelmed and panicked and just, money's coming in, bills are getting paid, and there's no stress on top of that, when things are rolling, and that is success.
Yeah, it's true. And sometimes you do have to ride those waves in business, because it's not always, it's not always high tide, right? It's like, it's a roller coaster.
Oh,
It
yeah.
is. It's a roller coaster. And there's so many outside factors that are outside of our control, But I love that you've said that it's it's like a continuous evolution. It never really ends, does it? It never really ends.
No.
Who or what inspires you most?
So I get inspired, I guess, from people like you, and I'm not just saying that because you're there in front of me, but that's what gave me a new vision for my business, was being mentored by people like you, and I've had a few mentors and coaches over the last couple of years, some within our industry, some without, sort of outside the industry, just general business, and all have been great because I've picked little bits and pieces that I've kept with me. And I haven't continued with all of them because you'd have to be, multimillionaire to continue with all the coaches you want to work with. But I've stuck with the ones that really resonate with me the most. And that's what inspires me, seeing successful business owners like you. You've had your dance studio, you've sold it, whatever, who know what they're talking about. I'm inspired by that, because you can get into a real, like, in your own world, and you're just thinking about your business, and that's your whole life, and that, you don't really think outside that until you hear other people's stories. And it's not just you as the coach or the mentor, it's the other people in the memberships as well. So you hear from these other people and you can bounce off each other, and that's really inspiring, because you pick up new ideas, and then you're suddenly like, all right, let's go. If you're in a slump and then you just get one new idea from another studio owner, that keeps you going, and that's inspiration.
Yeah, no, I love that. So what's next? What's on the cards for Tamara Scamporlino?
Well, I guess just getting back into, the year, right? Getting 2025 going at the studio. We've already started with our preschool classes. So we started back last week. So we run preschool for a 12-week term. So usually 2 weeks longer than the school age kids. Keeps it keeps it continuous for the kids, so they don't get too much of a break except at Christmas. And it keeps the money coming in, and it keeps our teachers employed. So we run all year. So that's up and running. It's slow because people are still on holidays, but we've got the enrollments, so we'll start seeing all of them back in pretty soon. School age starts next week. Daycare started today. High school starts week 2. So I'm prepared to go into another really busy year. I was hoping it would be a little more calm this year than last, but it looks like it's going to be just as busy. But I feel like I have some new ways to sort of deal with the extra stress and the extra busyness of my day-to-day life. And I've spent so much time over the past few years systemizing everything and having my processes set up so that I can just rinse and repeat. So everything we do at the studio, we make a list in Asana or whatever it might be. And even every Monday, I do Money Monday. And even though I can think of the exact steps I need to do, I pull up my Asana and I follow step by step. And I know that I've got to go into HubDoc, then I've got to go into Xero, and I've got to do this. But I follow step by step because sometimes my brain might be really tired and I'll forget something. So that's a system that's done.
I love
And
Money Mondays. Money
yeah,
Mondays is my jam.
yeah,
It's just an opportunity to go over the budget, the spreadsheet,
yeah.
the numbers, and it's a good cash flow
Mm,
exercise, I think, because like any small business, there's so much going in and out, and just to keep
yeah,
track of where you're at for, the following week and
yeah,
making sure all those numbers are crunched. I love a good Money Monday.
yep.
I used to do Financial Fridays, but
Mm,
now I actually like starting the week. And I also,
yeah,
with that,
yeah, me too.
and I do Money Mondays and Monday mapping. So
Ah,
that's when I map out the week ahead and I go, okay, I've got it all on Trello, the recurring daily
yeah,
tasks.
yep,
Then I'll just add like that little thing like, respond to this, or
yeah.
appointment XYZ on Wednesday, or, podcast interview with Tamara,
Yeah.
which we bumped, by the way. Thank you for doing that.
Great.
Yeah, so I'm going to be seeing you very soon in April at the Studio Biz Summit,
Yeah.
which is really exciting. That's a conference event in Sydney that I'm hosting on International Dance Day on April 29th, 2025. So yes, I'm excited about that. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because for everyone listening, Talent Manager Bootcamp is relaunched now on demand, and we've got a special package, an option to special package if you purchase before Feb 8th, which includes your ticket to Studio Biz Summit. So you will meet, and it's an optional extra, but hey, it's a package option.
Love that.
And you will meet both me and Tamara at the
Yay.
summit, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
And you've been to my conferences before. So what's
Yes.
your experience like at the conferences that I've run in the past?
Anything like this, I am book me in right now because it's so good that we have these things. We never had them before. We never had a summit where we could meet other studio owners face to face. We never had space like that to do a business conference or a business summit. Like that's really corporate. And you think of people in offices going to their conference and their summits. No, we get to do it too. Except ours are way more fun.
It's so not corporate anymore, though. It is the business side of what
Yes.
you do.
Yes.
And successful business owners, like you said, corporate arena and stuff, these guys are constantly at seminars, webinars, in-person conference and summit events. If them, why not us? Like I just think just because we're in the arts doesn't mean that we shouldn't take the arts, the business of the arts seriously, and immerse ourselves in a room that inspires us. So I love that.
Yeah.
My husband's just started the blender in the background. Not sure if you can hear it.
I
He's
can't hear
having
it.
showers, blending. This is the new life. Like he used to be in the office 5 days a week.
Yeah. We've had the dogs
Now we
here. Yeah.
share the space, but it's fine. You got to do it. Thank you so much. For anyone thinking about Talent Manager Bootcamp, what would you tell them?
Just do it. There's literally nothing to lose. Nothing. Like just do the course, decide what path you want to take. If you want to take one of the paths to be a talent manager, but honestly, it's so simple. Just do it and you'll love it. Very simple. Another revenue stream, like I said, super important to have all these different revenue streams going. And with you leading the way because you have so much experience, then why not? It's a no-brainer. Simple.
No brainer. Love it.
Yeah.
We're going to leave it there. No brainer, guys. Make sure you jump into Talent Manager Bootcamp. We've relaunched the course. It is now open, and we've got special bonuses available if you purchase over the next week or so. I've got a link in the show notes. It's josephinelancuba.com/talent. Thank you so much, Tamara, for being on the show today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Jo.
Thank you so much for listening. And don't forget, Talent Manager Bootcamp is now in its bonus offer launch, which means that if you join the course before February 8th, 2025, we have special offers and bonuses available. So jump in now and check it out. Head to josephinelancuba.com/talent. Link is in the show notes. See you next time. This episode was brought to you by my signature group coaching program, Studio Biz Success, an amazing and accessible online educational platform for performing arts studio owners designed to help you grow your business with confidence and get your results. Check it out at josephinelancuba.com along with other great industry resources to help you leap into the studio biz you deserve. If you love this episode, be sure to share it with your friends. You can tag me on social media at Josephine Lancuba and give it a review. Your support helps the show to grow so I can continue to provide you with useful, informative content. I'm Josephine Lancuba, your biggest cheerleader. Thanks for listening and shine bright.